It's an ordinance amending Whatcom County Code Title 20 to modify the dates of seasonal restrictions on clearing activities from September 1st through April 30th to October 1st through May 31st.
That's the motion that's on the floor, and I'd like to move to amend to make it October 1st through April 30th. Speaking to my motion, I am not sure there's anything particularly sacred about the idea that there would be, what is it, 4 or 5 months?
Gotcha.
And the rainfall, as has been presented by our staff, is shown to be just slightly greater in May than the other months, but not very much. This would create a more flexible building window for the landowners that are affected by this. And also, I have as much or more confidence in the restrictions and regulations we've put on sediment and erosion control than maybe some folks do, because not only is that implemented very effectively, but when there's violations, it's enforced very strongly in this county, and I think we can do a responsible job of taking care of Lake Whatcom and protecting it while allowing an additional month of May to, which we already currently have anyway, to allow this sort of activity.
I actually am going to support it. I took that class on to be certified to be a sediment and erosion control inspector. Of course, I'm not an inspector. I took it because I wanted to see what it involved, and I was very impressed with all that people are taught in that class, and I think that we're not having the problems we used to have. Plus, I brought that up in committee today, that the difference in the precipitation amount in those 2 months are really negligible, so I don't have a problem with it.
Well, I'll speak against the amendment. I think what we heard in committee today was that certainly there's not much difference in precipitation between September and May, but the difference between May is that the ground is already very saturated because we're coming off the winter-spring months, and they even provided some color pictures of runoff problems because of that saturation. So the water just hasn't drained much, and the plants aren't growing enough to uptake it that quick. And that was one of the reasons. The other reason is to try to align this to make it clear to everybody in the watershed, align it with the same dates the city has. That's a less of a reason, but a good one. So I would be against the amendment.
Councilmember Mann?
That's pretty much what I was going to say, but the saturation of the soils is the big issue here, and that's why we were moving it in the first place. And I think when we have science that shows us we should do something to protect our drinking water source, we should do it. And the runoff on the saturated soils is significant, so I will not support your amendment.
Well, yeah, I didn't see any science. I saw pictures and I saw the precipitation, but just as someone, I'm also a master gardener, and I can tell you May is a very, very good month for growth on all kinds of vegetation. So I just don't think it's one of those real make or break 1 month difference. I couldn't see the difference.
Okay, any other comments on the motion to amend to change this to October 1st through April 30 for the dates? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to amend say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
And I believe that carried 5-2 with Mann and Weimer opposed.
I oppose.
You opposed, and Nelson. So that's 4-3 with Mann, Weimer, and Nelson opposed. All right, any further discussion on the motion? Councilmember Weimer.
Well, I'm going to vote against the whole motion now because we've extended the clearing season within the Lake Whatcom watershed, the drinking water source. There's plenty of science that shows, and we're under a TMDL order, or we soon will be, to deal with phosphorus loading into the Lake Whatcom watershed. What we saw today was rain totals leading up till May that were much higher. May was being higher than September. We saw pictures of saturated ground. We've had reports in the last couple of years of enforcement activities on these things. It's better in the Lake Whatcom watershed than it is in other parts of the county, but it's still not perfect, and there are lots of pictures of where best management practices were not being followed, and I think it's just going in the wrong direction when we're trying to, when the Lake Whatcom continues to go in the Water quality continues to be impaired, and we're under federal and state orders to clean it up to increase the clearing that goes on in the watershed. So I'm going to vote against the whole motion.
I'm in agreement over the years, having worked on this issue for whatever it's been with my council and planning commission years, probably going on 15 years now, that we have very stringent sediment and erosion control measures. Are they perfect in terms of fail-proof in every case? No. But they're also not fail-proof in the months that we're approving. And I have a lot of confidence in those measures, and I'm also skeptical that we can sit here and say that the construction-related land clearing that is going on during those times is a significant contributor to the overall phosphorus picture of Lake Whatcom. I'm not in denial that there may be, again, some moments of failure or instances of failure on individual projects. But given the regulations that we have in place and the controls we have in place, as well as comparing that to a lot of the natural events that occur, a lot of the issues we're dealing with roads and stormwater, and the issues we're dealing with stormwater coming off in various areas such as Hillsdale and Geneva. I think that we are taking a responsible approach to phosphorus reduction, in fact, in the light of the TMDL issues that we're looking at with the Department of Ecology.
I'm going to speak against this as well. I think it's irresponsible. That's the drinking water source, and we're going to expand the amount of time that we can do clearing activities. I think if we had noticed that significant of a change, we'd have a lot more people here to talk about it and to express concern. Construction sites generate much more sediment and runoff than a site once it's already been developed and established. Far, far more. And I've worked in this field. I used to design erosion and sediment control measures. And I see them all around the county, not just in the watershed, and frequently you've got your silt fences with sediment, muddy water going under, or silt backed up and flowing over. And I do not have as much confidence as some people that those controls are in place and effective at all times. And I'm just not willing to take chances with the reservoir. And I think we should not increase the amount of time that you can go in clearing in the watershed.
I can certainly agree to the argument that you have saturation in May and that you perhaps have some impact to the watershed, but to draw a further conclusion and not vote for it because this is drastic and draconian is somewhat a little bit far-reaching. I think none of us know the impact of whether 1 month has or not. In fact, you guys were willing to vote for the change here that was allowing September to be utilized because there wasn't enough evidence before when it was in place. So if you actually feel that strongly about protecting the watershed, impose a moratorium strictly throughout the year, I guess, or make it July through August the only building time. I mean, simply to vote for it because it's 1 month, I mean, that's, I just think that you guys are making a political statement rather than justifying it for some reason. And I don't know what the reason is. I mean, I was willing to support keeping May as a protection. But I can't see this saying, oh, let's vote against the whole thing because now, it's changed. Because you're already changing it. You're allowing September to be put in there.
Although I do think there was a little much hype about it being irresponsible and, a lot of the push-the-button words. I don't know enough one way or another, and it is the Lake Whatcom watershed, and so I'm going to change my mind, and I'm willing to do that just because it's the only place that I have ever voted for a down zone to begin with,